Hello! And I forgot there's two buttons to go live because Stuart always does the second one. So technical problems aside and me not knowing how to go live by myself necessarily, we are here for Trekyards does, Fleet Yards does, Orville Season 3 / New Horizon with special guest, the ambassador who's roaming things you can see behind him because he's a ambassador / archaeologist.
Yes, I've just travelled 2,300 years into the future
He's
to
not
be
even
with you
wrong.
today, all the way
Yeah.
from Rome to Spain, where it got up to like 38 degrees centigrade.
I'm
Really kind of hot.
Yes, I'm happy for the not huge warmth at the moment. So let us know if you can hear us both. Like I said, technical issues, but we did get his microphone working. So that was our success story we'll take from this. But yes, we are here. Stuart is currently either travelling or having travelled to a convention. And so I want to give you guys the Orville treatment that we all wish we had more of. And
So Stuart was travelling in space, but not in time.
yes.
I had the bigger journey.
Well, you also had more miles, I think.
Thousands of miles and
Yeah.
thousands of years. But okay, well I made it. Well, I've got a time machine.
Well, thanks,
So.
JB. Yes, but we'll talk about the Orville. We just finished watching it, as we tend to do for these reviews with Stuart. It tends to be, a few minutes beforehand. And like I said, the tech didn't go so well. This is a review / first look / breakdown. So a bit of everything. But kind of, give our thoughts and hopefully talk to you guys about what you think. And interested to see what the world of Orville, having been... Gosh, when was the last episode of Season 2 came out? Okay, we'll start from there. What was the last thing you remember about the Orville you remember from Season 2? What was the vibe that you left off remembering?
Well, it was that epic battle, wasn't it, with the Kazon?
Nope, not the Kazon. There's a Star Trek.
Well,
Kalon.
Kalon. I'm sure that they were thinking of that when they said Kalon.
It's very possible.
But yeah, it was really touch and go with some epic space battles and some, for the time, quite good CGI, big budget ending.
Well, it's funny you say that, but in fact, that was the mid-season two-parter.
Okay.
The season ended with a rather good two-parter where they changed time, where Kelly accidentally went back, or no, they brought a young version of Kelly, who's a second in command, into the present, and she, when she was sent back, took the problems of the present back to her past and made different choices. And then the entire future got screwed because she didn't do a few things. And so we got to see the road not taken, so it kind of ends with they reset the timeline. A very classical story. That was very good.
Exactly. They reset the timeline, so how am I supposed to know about it? Because the timeline's been reset.
A fair joke. Now, can you give us a guess of when that came out?
When I had more hair?
Possible. Orville Season 2 episode
2019.
April 25th, 2019. That is 3 years. Now, 2 of them, we understand why. But it was a serious delay. So I'm going to start sharing. So you've got a vamp. As Stuart does. So talk about the Patreon and liking, subscribing. I'm sure you've watched that segment before, Ambassador. I'm sure you can vamp. So I'll see you in a minute.
Okay, so I'm supposed to vamp. Well, I have seen that segment several times, and I've just probably forgotten about it. But yes, you can support us on Patreon. I support a few things on Patreon, including the Star Trek Studios in Georgia, which is very helpful, keeps them going. And obviously you can super chat, which is a very immediate way of getting your views across and seeing your support for the channel being realized in real time. And then PayPal, which I understand is in some ways a better way of getting donations across because there's less commission. But just sharing the videos it helps the algorithm with YouTube and shows interest. Number of views that a video gets pushes it up some kind of internal ladder and gets more recognition, perhaps gets more money earning adverts inserted into the videos. I don't know. I don't run YouTube or Facebook. But hey, it's great to be here and talk about a series that I'm going to be frank, I really, really love and feels very much home in the TNG vein of things. and I'm sure we're going to talk about some of the details as we get into the episode. But just comparing the choices of lighting, bright, easy to see, not grimy, dark interiors, really very pristine, and just such a contrast to some of the more recent offerings in the main Star Trek franchise. And it was well, it's been 3 years, but it was a great welcome back, and I wasn't disappointed. I'm sure Samuel will have more to say about that, as I will, and we are looking forward to your thoughts. It's an interesting counterpoint to other mainstream franchise episodes of the official Star Trek, showing what they can do with a will and a way, and probably quite a lot of money as well, and produced a very beautiful piece of TV. But hey, what else can I talk about besides Star Trek and the Orville? Since I can see no feedback on my screen, so I don't know what any of you are saying, so I can't.
I mean, you could just load up the YouTube page then. In fairness, you won't be that far delayed. You could look at the chat. You probably should do that. That's a good. Because looking at me isn't as fun as looking at the lovely chat.
So I split the screen, do I, between things?
Well, yes, you would just do that.
You're trusting me, who's technically illiterate, to be able to do this.
Well, it's not hard. You have two screens. It's really not hard. Although you have got the new Skype interface, which is confusing. But yeah, well, good vamp. Good vamp, by the way. That was very, very on brand. Good job.
Ah, well, maybe you'll have to.
Surprisingly good.
Thank you.
We have done several hundred of these shows. Oh my god! A spy! A spy has hacked in! He says, where is Captain Foley? Where is Captain Foley? Oh, and then he answers the next comment. Hi from Louisville, Kentucky! Stuart, did you see the episode yet? No, because I haven't seen get it. But yes, I asked a poll. I asked you guys, how excited were you to see the new how excited were you for Orville to return? Very some. Meh, not for me. Vote now, and yes, this is a bonus live as Stuart does, and we know Stuart gets a lot of support in super chats, so hopefully you guys will jump in and make us feel appreciated as well. We're here especially T-minus 5 days for my birthday and my birthday weekend and planning and so everything's leading up to the 11th of June, the big shoot, so it's kind of a whew, and then after that maybe a bit more peace. Louisville, fair enough, thank you. Have you got the can you see the live chat now?
I can. I've turned the sound off because there is a delay and I can't.
Yes, absolutely. Oh yeah, you ignore the video, just look at the chat. Good stuff.
Yeah, I thought I looked more handsome in real life, but I don't think this.
Well, you're not in real life, so that's fine.
Yeah, this thing is making me look old and haggard. It's amazing, isn't it? How you can age people with your software that you've got, especially.
It's just because you're in lower resolution. That's all. I have a lot of lights on right now. You're in quite. Although to be honest, out of focus, that background then with the red works quite well. The shield, etc. And yes, thanks to Tim Davies for the commissioned Orville L cards. We finally got to use it. We commissioned it in 2011. Yeah, end of 2020 and started 2021. So we finally got to use it, Tim. Thanks so much. And we do have two super chats. One was from Mark saying it was fantastic at the start of the show, and then Christian says for $5, thank you. Beautiful ship shots, but a shipyard isn't the best place for a training area. The super happy nonetheless. The entire month of June is sci-fi month. Yes, it's true. We have Stranger Worlds. We have Orville. We have Obi-Wan. Hasn't been that packed since we had Star Trek Enterprise, Battlestar Galactica, and the Stargates. Three iconic show franchises. Wow, that's a hell of a thing. Oh, and Trekyards says everyone's super. Yes, I agree. So as I do with the person in the other seat. So what do you think of Orville season 3 episode 1?
Blown away.
Oh,
it was beautiful. It was not so much a TV episode as a theatrical movie. Not even a TV movie. The orchestral soundtrack was very reminiscent of the best of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. The visuals were incredible. I mean, they put more in than they needed. There was a lot of money spent on that episode, and as if they wanted to prove a point. I mean, they made use of that extra time, and I don't know if he's bankrolled some of that budget, because that was more than was necessary for a TV episode to carry the story along. They had shots in there just because they could do them, just because they wanted to do them, to show you shots like you like showing shots people haven't seen, of how spaceships move through space, or close-ups, or the window shots. I mean, the little details, little reflections, and when you're looking through the window from the outside inward, and that little reflection in the corner that you're subconsciously you would pick up, that tells you it's real. Which if it wasn't there, there'd be something nagging you that it was fake.
I don't even think you would, because they missed it in the first 2 years, but it was added, the cherry on top that goes above and beyond.
Somewhere deep down inside, it won't be something that may be
not as good,
bothering you.
Sure.
I mean, I have to watch it again, because really it was so expansive. I mean, you really got a sense of space. This was like glorifying There were lots of what you would call ship form in it.
Stuart would love that term.
It was they were glorifying in the adventure that is the exploration of space, which is what they were saying about Star Trek the Motion Picture. That's what that's about. Not so much action, but this one also had lots of action, and the messaging on. Am I able to jump forward in the story?
Sure, full spoilers, obviously, guys, and then we'll do more concise.
I wasn't expecting
this is concise thoughts, but it's fine. Jump around concise thoughts. It does happen.
Yeah, I mean, the messaging on this issue of suicide. I mean, it's such a delicate issue. I mean, the whole script. How do you deal with the representative of an enemy race that's murdered thousands of millions of people still working on your ship? And it's a very, very difficult script to write. And they did avoid falling into various tropes, which I thought they could have done, which would have been cliche, but they didn't. And then they had the thing about suicide, and basically getting the message across that suicide is not a good thing, because people who commit suicide, it's because they can't distinguish the present from the future, and there is no problem that's too insurmountable you can't solve with time. And that was so that was so Star Trek, in getting that message across without ramming it down your throat, but done in such a subtle way. I mean, hats off to them. In some ways, at some point I was thinking, given all the investing in the emotion of his loss, Isaac's loss, it will be cheap to bring him back and resurrect him that easily. But in the end, that worked very, very well. And I didn't feel cheated that they brought him back to life. I mean, at some point, I thought he was going to stay dead, because they pitched the story and the emotion so well. So no, incredible first episode. I don't know what else they've got in the locker after shooting that, but it just reminded me. I mean, I have to confess, I was looking forward to seeing this Orville more than I was looking forward to seeing Star Trek. I've got used to the new rebooted Star Trek as an alternative universe, but this again still felt more like home. It's TNG home. It had everything that ticked the boxes that people like from the Star Trek series. One of the best episodes, I think, for me personally, of Orville and of Star Trek. Is that too effervescent?
Oh, always. in the concise breakdown, to go too big is always a fun choice.
At a first watch, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, so much, and of course, it benefits from the fact it's got a much longer runtime.
Mm-hmm. 1 hour and 6 minutes. Very
not quite a feature film. It's almost the length of Dumbo, which is one of feature films that early Disney film, which is considered to be a film, but actually was only just over an hour.
Well, it occurred to me as I was watching it that they were leaving the dry dock at the 45-minute mark, which would have been the thematic end in their original Fox run. They said 25 minutes to go, give or take. That's another. So they had a full episode of their show plus a Lower Decks episode on top. So it was a very long, and you can kind of feel very much that's maybe where the story would have finished if the script was written while they're at Fox still. There's an actual endpoint, and then you have part 2 be a distinct part 2, and they could have, so it's interesting to kind of be that specific. But Holy Gabriel says he actually really enjoyed both seasons of Picard. Well, good for you. We reviewed them hardcore and didn't particularly because they had lots of problems, but Sometimes when you actually review them and think about them, a lot of these shows aren't designed to be thought about, unlike the old shows. But that's okay. So, ask me what I thought then, as Stuart always does.
Well, Samuel,
Yes.
having watched that
I
episode,
did.
what did you think with your director, producer, filmmaker, animators hats on and storyboarding hats on?
That's true. There are many hats.
Yes, because you're an expert, really. I'm just a member of the public.
Thank you. So,
I'm so modest, aren't I? Really?
so proud. It's nice. The space stuff was great, but I found the story itself underwhelming because it's a very lingering inner story without the strongest narrative push forward. Whereas you compare Strange New Worlds, it has a very strong narrative push, and that's rare for the current Treks. You know, it has its beat, it gets pace. This is much more just sort of being in the world. But unlike the Obi-Wan Kenobi show or another one I can't think of, you don't know the Orville world as much, so the sets don't have that same just love. You know, walking down an Orville corridor is fine, but you're not getting that same grandiose love of it, etc. That said, though, a lot of new sets which generate new feelings. I didn't actually catch the suicide allegory, or well, it was just a part of the storyline until the counselling at the end. Then it got to me what the episode's about. Because up to that point, he just kills himself and then we move on with the story. You know? So that's probably how well told it was. It was so subtle, I didn't even think about it as a message until right near the end. But then the whole thing galvanizes with that end, which is good. But as you waited 3 years for this, needed a bit more story for me. And certainly they completely ignored Bortus, the chief, and yeah, it was a weird one. And Seth's acting's never really particularly good, but he also let the team down a bit. He wasn't overly good. That said, they really worked hard to introduce the new character, the new blonde, I guess, secondary Helm. But then to make it kind of the antagonist as well was bold. Certainly going in full hop with that. But it was definitely we want to linger on this story and let it breathe. But at the end of it, I'm thinking, okay, that's good, but okay, you know? Especially, as you said, they sort of did a reset with him being alive again. Nothing really happened in that sense. So, yeah.
I think it as you know, I like thoughtful. I don't mind.
I do as well. You can't say
and there was lots of action in that. There was lots of shooty. I mean, they blew up the shuttle, which is a nice little, to get the Kazon to go, Kalon to go away. Mm-hmm. But I think this episode will resonate more with an older generation or people who've I've lived long enough, and I've known people who have committed suicide. I know people who have tried to commit suicide, and I know, and that's it addresses very poignant. Seeing that it's a very, very real issue, and that wasn't just TV. I mean, I actually tried to find some counselling.
Yeah.
I thought it's a very delicate issue to deal with, because you can sound very, very preachy, saying, pull your boots up, be optimistic. And I just thought it was so well handled. But I guess I'm coming for that because I have personal investment in that situation, and so I appreciated the way they handled it. And I think it was a very positive message for people.
But it's interesting that when you go so subtle with it and so kid gloves in an appropriate way, it becomes such an undertone that I'm waiting for the actual story to start. I think I was 30 minutes in, I'm saying, when does the story begin? And it never kind of did until that moment, and that's like an hour in, literally 60 minutes. So it needed definitely a stronger B story, or any B story. It needed a bit more with any of the side characters, as in the ones we already knew. And it was weird, the introduction of the fighter, we already saw that in season 2, so it being given such a, wow, we've got a fighter, felt a bit empty, because I know I'm obviously a ship guy, but I've seen that for 4 years, it wasn't, that felt to me like we can pad the runtime, but I'd rather have seen something meaningful in that scene.
I guess another analogy would be like, we want to go on holiday and enjoy ourselves and just soak up the sun and just chill out in the world that we love. Let's go down to our favorite beach and just hang. And going into the Orville universe, I like a lot of the new Star Trek. I like Strange New Worlds, but in the end, it's not my perfect cup of tea fit. I'm not the most comfortable in that new franchise. And when we saw the Orville, I was just happy to be there. I was just happy to be on that ship. I was happy to be with that crew. I could just hang in the, 10 forward,
They're
just
not
sipping.
10, not the back of the ship. The back.
Yeah, whatever.
The,
Just having synthahol. I mean, I was just so pleased to be there, and I thought it was, and the artistry of the shots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was, as I said at the time, it's like walking through an art gallery. Shot after shot was beautiful, beautiful. Okay, you can have more story to make it even more perfect, but I'm happy with what we got.
But it's also, this is from a guy who does also just litter his episodes with CG to kind of expand them.
Yeah.
But I'm missing the bit of extra story. But like I say, it was a welcome back to the world, but it felt very much like this is the epilogue to last season with the Kalon story, which makes sense. But if you start the season, it should be a really powerful ride or grab you, but it kind of just like lingered in the past. Which feels like it would, if they intended for it to come out straight away after season 2, but obviously 3-year delay, probably would have had this as maybe episode 3, once you earn the we're back in the world moment, because it kind of felt, well, you hadn't earned it yet, because you've kind of, bit
but
weird.
do you agree that you could have watched this in a cinema on a big screen? It felt that kind of scale.
Yes, oh yeah, for sure. They were playing on all cylinders, just like I said, just need more story for the story. That said, obviously, you appreciate when the side characters get the lion's share of the work, because normally these shows would be the two leads, the Ed Mercer and the Kelly Grace and the captain and commander. They have
hardly in it, were they?
And Ed especially. So it's from that respect, it's super nice to see the Doctor, who was obviously in DS9 as Cassidy Yates, get a almost full episode to herself. Very introspective, although I found some of those scenes not quite as deep as they could have been, despite it. Yeah, but that's also because it's a tricky balance, because they had to plan it.
I did find it moving when she was in the simulated dining room.
One take, no music, panning, lovely.
It's, as I said at the time, there was no background music. It was dead silent for it's a long time to have that many seconds of silence on TV. And the way she broke down, it was such good for me, very good acting. It wasn't, the way she got into being sad, the stifled sobs. It's just like very compelling. I have to say, at the end of the episode, I did have tears in my eyes. I mean, maybe that's just me.
Oh, which bit?
Oh, just at the end again when the kid came in, and he's to visit Isaac, and I thought they're going to fall into this trope. He's going to go over to him and talk to him, and they're sort of like going to make up.
No.
And they didn't. They hung back, which was good.
Yep.
But I'm surprised Isaac didn't register the fact he was there, because he's got all these, he can multitask and all these sensors.
I'm assuming that him being literally dead without a hope of coming back, and then finding the insane backup that will affect his programming so that he can evolve in a different way. There's another show called Ghosts that I've watched recently, where the main character does die for like 2 minutes, and then because she's brought back, she can see dead people or get to see ghosts. And so I'm wondering if that similar sort of corruption will then spark something greater. Although I will say it was very nice to see. You sort of forget the characterizations a little bit because it's been so many years, but Isaac was always such an interesting take. I know we both felt that at the time. How do you do another robot again? And it was a good take. And we met the actor, that helps. But neither of us knew, I think, when we were watching it, are they going to genuinely kill Isaac? They played it very close to the vest on that.
That's why I said in my vamp, I really thought I would have felt cheated if they brought him back at some point, because of so much investment emotionally in his passing, just having resurrected like Spock or something. But they actually did it in a way which made it feel earned, and so and the messaging and there was his death meant something, because it changed people's perceptions and things like that. So it wasn't just a random, we're going to kill a guy. But what I also like about the actor is the way he moves. He chooses to move as a robot. That
or not move.
That graceful use of hands and movement. He's just, it's a mime artist.
Well, I think he did have mime experience. I think we talked about that.
He's a good performance artist.
Yeah, he definitely, for a character of that sort, really did. I mean, the whole episode is him and the Doctor, with a side note of the blonde lady as well, and the fact that the Doctor is relatively the same emotional beat throughout the entire episode, give or take. Isaac is by definition the same non-emotional beat. It's amazing how they can kind of carry an almost entire episode. That's a skill. That said, what do you think then of the blonde lady who came in? And
I was going to get to her.
Similarly, a beat.
I like the fact that she didn't, in the end, it wasn't all tied up in a nice bow, but she still hates him. And she said, I didn't do it for you. Because again, that would have been a trope, like all make happy at the end, all is forgiven, but it isn't all forgiven. This is going to, and as I said, that the doctor was saying this could take, the future changes, so it could take a month, take a year. Isaac wants to know exactly how long it's going to take because he thinks mathematically. No, I like that as well. Again, the script was I thought the script for the subject was very, very carefully thought out. What would really happen if? And there was no rush to resolution. I mean, these were very difficult subjects. How you deal with the enemy in your midst, who has murdered thousands or millions of people. I mean, it's a very real issue. And even the captain said he wasn't sure it was the right thing, but he's right from a pragmatic point of view. If they're going to beat the Kaelon, they have to have a Kaelon working for them who understands the Kaelon.
Well, and
that's their best chance.
And double down for a second, unlike the Klingons or the Romulans, where we've had vaguely similar inclinations, the Kaelon by definition are identical. And so when the attack parties attacked all individual ships, yes, their heads would become these big gun turrets, but they'd often be their normal configuration. And so Isaac is literally the embodiment, kind of like a Dalek. If you have a good Dalek on the battlefield working with you, it'll look exactly the same as every other Dalek. The same fear response will happen. So that works very well in that response. And I was definitely surprised by the captain's reaction, making him imperfect, and even says explicitly, this is a bad choice of me to say this as a captain, and yet I'm saying it. But he's obviously the very down-to-earth captain. I kind of wish we had more of him. I think you do need a centre point character, and they really ensembled it potentially a bit too much this week.
I think in later episodes it'll come back. They had a specific purpose with this episode to tie up that sort of like situation,
or not tie up. Just like I said, it was more of an epilogue story. It was, we want to genuinely show for over an hour, which is very rare in television, show the repercussions of this.
Yeah, I don't think Fox would have let them do that.
Well, because
anyway, don't we need some more super chats, because we've been bumping along.
I know. Yes, I know. I do agree with you. And
no one asks us questions.
No, I think the questions are good. But it's a sort of episode where they easily could have stripped out 20 minutes of we fix the ship captain, those extra bits that are so unnecessary.
That was just ship porn, wasn't it? Really, seriously.
Yeah.
I love the fact walking on the hull. I mean,
that
gave such a great perspective of the ship. You don't, as you were saying at the time, the ship is part of the story, and they really want it in there. They really want to show it off. Unlike some recent Star Trek franchises where ships have been a bit of incidental, getting you from A to B.
Yeah, super bright. No, it's you definitely got the sense, almost to the point of too much repeating, but they found a way to not. They kept highlighting the ship, the shape. You know. They're proud of it as a character, and it has such a standalone presence compared to Discovery and such, where it's always in super shadow. You never get a good sense of it. Almost entirely, so that it really like goes for it. And you compare the and there were different parallels. Stranger Worlds was made with a much different budget, much different style, but I have noticed in already the space shots, while there is enough of them, are about a third less than I would want to see. And Orville, I mean, they had 3 episodes worth of space shots over an average story. I mean, it's at a dry dock, so you can have those, but they definitely wanted to go bold with that and really give you a sense of the fleet.
And there was humour too. It wasn't all about dark things, was it? Jaffat, that's the slimy guy. Affit. I like the way he came out of his spacesuit. I didn't think he needed to be in a spacesuit, but he was in a spacesuit. And then he came slimed out of it, and the spacesuit collapsed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the guy throwing his lunch down into the reactor core to see if it would destabilize it. That's a little bit of humour. So there was some funny bits in it.
But, I mean, you're looking at maybe a handful of moments, 2 if you really want to push it. They were very, very clear in their tone. And they, unlike Season 1, which was a bit mixed in tone, and Season 2, which was more certain, and I thought Season 2 was a lot less funny and therefore less engaging to me. It just feels like TNG rather than its own unique hybrid. This was all in on those things, so... I mean, it's not a comedy in any way. I mean, you can have occasional quips in a drama. So it's definitely not a comedy show anymore.
Or at least that episode.
Sure, but you would try and blend the styles more if you're going to, you mean as you carry on,
I can imagine Seth himself. I don't know who wrote that episode. Did we see who wrote it?
We did, but we didn't focus on it. Oh, I've looked.
What did you think of the new shuttle and fighter designs? Says Matt Borman for $5. Thank you, Matt. I loved the fighter. I saw, and the shots when they were zooming into the cockpit and the movement around the cockpit, you really felt like it was a real 3D space. I mean, the designs have grown on me. I mean, the strange engine formation at the back takes a bit of getting used to, but no, it's just a feast for the eyes, really. I guess if you're starving, any food is welcome, and maybe it's just that I'm starving for something like this, that I'm just grabbing it, and maybe after I've had a few meals of this, 4 episodes in, I'll start being slightly more critical. But it was just a breath of fresh air. Sorry, I didn't mean to be so gushy, but this is my first reaction.
That's why
if you do a review at the end of the season, I might be saying, I didn't think much of that. But no, I was wondering who wrote it, because I got a feeling.
Well, I know. So, what's your feeling?
Was it Seth himself?
Is that your feeling?
Could be.
Written and directed by Seth MacFarlane, which is why he's barely in it. Which makes
I've got a feeling. I don't know much about Seth's biography, but I suspect that he has known someone who's committed suicide or dealt with it, because I felt this was written from someone who's got personal perspective. And so anyone who's got personal perspective of this, I think this episode really resonates beyond just being an episode of Orville. I was going to say Star Trek, but Orville. Anyway,
I can see that now you've said that. That does flow.
I might actually look into Seth's background. I think maybe I read somewhere. I don't know, a friend of his or something. But anyway, I'm glad they didn't kill off Isaac anyway, even if he is possible Trojan horse.
Well, he's in theory the most important character, because they doubled down season on season on the Kalon. That was also their master plan, so you can't lose him. He's kind of like 7 of 9 in a sense as well, maybe as sexy. I don't know. You each have your own personal choices. Yeah, they couldn't do it though. It wouldn't have made sense without the he'll back in 5 episodes sort of vibe. Removing him would have been too much. But like I said, I want more Bortus. Well, I do appreciate having the second. Because if you remember in season 1, Lamar, who's now the engineer, was on the helm block with.
As was Georgie LaForge.
But no, it was Wonderful Symmetry. But having that repertoire at the front really worked. Whereas when you removed him, Gordon was more quippy to the air, and he had less. So I appreciate if she's going to be a regular, which I think she is, the new blonde lady. That's the repartee back. They just didn't commit to that in season 2. Although, how do you feel having such a prejudiced character who you're not meant to like as one of the leads?
I didn't dislike her because her reaction would be normal. No matter how advanced you are in the 23rd or 24th century this is set.
When is this? I think it's 2600 actually.
I mean, it's a big thing to get over because the Kalon are really nasty. They got really scary-looking ships, and they are single-minded like the Borg or the Daleks were. So they're actually very amazingly accommodating to actually have him on the ship. You'd be very hard-pressed for a 21st century crew to tolerate that as well. I was noticing. Okay, so when he sat down in the rec room, people moved away after a point. But when he was walking down the corridor, people didn't notice him or didn't move out of the way, which they could have had that reaction as well. It's like he was just a functioning member of the crew. So either that was an oversight on their part, or the majority of them are doing very well in handling it. They're in the fleet. They've gently, she didn't in the end follow orders, did she? Well, she was talked into it by the kid. But yes, I mean, I'm amazed that they are actually so tolerant, really, if you think about it. I mean, how would you feel if I've been killed by a Kalon and then there's a Kalon serving on the ship?
I don't think any of us could say, because you have the case of if you knew the Kalon for 2 years and he helped save people versus something you don't know. And this is why we take for granted a lot of the time in the Star Treks where you have a character who's of a specific something or other, and on Enterprise D you got 1,000 people. Most people don't know anybody of the higher ranks. Most people haven't even met the captain more than on initiation day, you know? And so if you just know Isaac is just the guy who you see in the mess hall, sometimes don't talk to him, there's a disconnect there. But if you're the main bridge crew, although I was kind of waiting for Gordon, who in the hangar bay said, "I also disagree." I was thinking that was a ploy to get.
I thought that was a ploy.
Yeah.
That was a ploy as well. It didn't seem in character for him.
And just the acting was off. It felt like he was forcing the dialogue.
Yeah. Actually, maybe that'll be resolved in a later episode.
It didn't feel genuine to me.
No.
I'm glad we had the same energy, which I'm sure. I mean, Seth's Captain Mercer's a smart guy, so I can imagine he might have asked his best friend to keep an eye on it. And so if someone, talks about it, play along. You can always trust him. So I imagine that's what's happening there. He's much like, but the blonde lady, it's tricky because you're not meant to like her, but you're meant to sympathise with her, but also she had the same dialogue for almost the entire episode. I have the same problem in scripts where how often in a situation where you're both characters need to have a conversation and one person say no almost every line, well, how many lines can you keep going, It's very tricky, and they kind of had that scene more than once. That's why the kid scene's very important, obviously, because the emotional factor is what moves them. It's very tricky stuff to kind of keep that interesting. And this is why I do think that either they should have slimmed down a couple of minutes or had another storyline to kind of counteract. It's because they're also brand new to this longer format as well. It's a whole new ball game to play now.
Maybe they should have had a more light-hearted thing going on somewhere as well.
I kept expecting there to be a sub-story with the refit, where the spacewalk stuff, like that would be a side plot. They kept going to it, and to have something happen on the edge of the ship that was meaningful, beyond just opening a panel. So I kind of thought that was going to be a thing. But those shots, I was going to mention them earlier, those were fantastic to see. I mean, the scale of that and the money spent, that's an expensive and hard thing to achieve. So good for them for.
So you'd be really pleased if you saw that in a feature film, let alone an episode.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there are feature films which are lacking that scale.
No, you're very true.
And it's the imagination. I'm used to you putting your shots together, and the imagination that goes into that, and how you use the 2D space and make it 3D. And so I could see it. I mean, they composers, whatever, they hard work, but they were given free rein and really enjoying themselves to push it.
Yeah, my guess is that because they obviously had a 2-year delay, is that what you can do throughout that time is just do CG. And I know most of the team is all still on staff the entire time, which is why the season's probably going to be exceptionally expensive. And I'm sure I'm sure Seth threw in a few million himself just to kind of equal the books, because his investment. And I do it for my own fan films, and you put your own money in obviously as well. So I can see he probably put a couple of million in. I mean, he's got the seasons booked in for Family Guy and American Dad, Family Guy, American Dad for more years. So he can throw in 5 million, 10 million, and that'll hurt 10 million, but he can do it. So it felt like they had the extra time to have really polished, really elaborate CG to come out. I mean, there's an entire showreel for an artist level of shots in terms of the amount, the variety, and then to even add a gas giant sequence. It's like, you don't need that.
As you were pointing out at the time,
thing.
The explosions, the detail that went into those explosions, and the fragmentation, the individual balls of fire. I mean, that wasn't necessary, but this whole thing is still a passion project for him. It's still a love letter to Star Trek.
Well, and he
wants to do something he's really, really proud of.
And that's why it's super surreal, because this show is probably the only show to more full-on take the terms that we know. They had shields, they had torpedoes, they had replicators, they had, don't red alert, all the verbatim terms. Obviously, CBS can't copyright red alert, but you associate it so strongly with it. Obviously, they have quantum drive, and they said we can't have quantum. As opposed to warp. So
as you said, and the proper warp effect as well, with the stars going by. So beautiful.
They had warp. It's crazy. So they it's fine to see that level, but I mean, the story was that he originally pitched CBS to make a Trek show, and they said no. And so he wanted to be the captain and say red alert, and like the things he wants to say as a Star Trek fan. You can kind of see that coming through. But let's talk to the chat for a minute. Bill says, doesn't the holodeck have a memory engram of Isaac? Thoughts?
Well, it would have a superficial memory, but it can't probably have the complete personality, individual engrams of the individual. It can replicate how he would behave, in fact, as you could do with computers now to a certain extent, pre-programmed things, but it would still be not sentient.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Just a very very elaborate answer machine.
Which I appreciate and I've never seen that before actually, where the doctor's in the not holodeck, and the kid's trying to make a program, and she goes from the mum to the
psychologist.
Yeah, I've never seen that shift where she's sort of unsympathetic tone wise, but that's really refreshing that she's just telling the kid like an adult, son, this is not.
We understand that was also important messaging. That was actual messaging as well. And I also appreciated that they didn't fall for the trope when she went to the room and sat down at the table, she didn't bring Isaac back.
Or the human Isaac either, which I was waiting for the human version. Are
you going to do that? But no, she stuck to her guns.
Yep.
It was very adult.
Yeah.
It wasn't rushed. You can tell they've had time fine-tuning the script. They sat there and imagined themselves in those roles for real. What would happen and what would we do? Scene by scene by scene. Nothing was really contrived, I don't think. But then again, you'll see it with a different eye, because you can deconstruct in a way that I can't, because you construct these things.
I was kind of surprised though that we didn't get a discussion between everyone else, what they thought. We never learned what Kelly thought of him killing himself, or prejudice or not. We never got abortus like that before. We didn't really get the security chief. I was kind of waiting for those scenes as well to give us that big broad perspective, but it was very focused. In theory, this is the big, the big war just happened, time got reset, the last Kalon in not Starfleet, is gone. I was kind of waiting for those scenes, and what do they feel, Maybe they want to leave ambiguous for later episodes, potentially.
Well, I can see that they will have thought this whole season through. They've had time to think through very, very, very carefully, that there'll be references back to that. So, we've got a $10 US dollar super chat from George Mangrum.
Our friend George.
I watched this before I watched SNW, at Star Trek New Worlds, and
it's not.
No,
it's not Star Trek New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds. I watched Strange New Worlds when I've been abroad for most of the last month and a half.
Isn't that adorable, ladies and gentlemen? Isn't that adorable? Sorry, continue.
I'm still time dizzy. I watched this before I watched Strange New Worlds, and I just kept thinking, I wish this was over so I can watch Strange New Worlds. It's okay, but kind of boring in stretches.
Thoughts?
Well, we're all different, so I guess we will have different experiences. As I said, this episode will resonate more with certain people than others based on their life experiences. And yes, Strange New Worlds probably has more story in a sense, episodic. We've got to fit it into 45, 50 minutes, which is what Discovery didn't do. So, I have to say I've missed 2 or 3 episodes of Strange New Worlds because I have been in Roman times. In Rome, France, Hungary, Spain.
What COVID?
Yes. So yeah, I need to catch up on that.
Yeah, and boring's tricky. It's there's that massively fine line between lingering to appreciate the world and the moment, which is what Mandalorian did. You can argue that was boring, but actually just having those long takes where you just kind of take in the moment, that's important. So you can land on the inside the fence. I can see why you'd say that, and definitely could have been easily refined the edit, but they wanted to push the runtime as long as they needed to, could have, to let those things linger. I wouldn't remove that many moments either. To make that shorter, there's not much I would do if I was. So it's yeah. But we haven't watched Stranger Worlds yet, so I'm excited to see. I think that was pace-wise that'll be on point. They tend to be. I know the next one has more Vulcan story, which we really enjoyed from episode 1. Which, as you guys remember, I was very like, to Pring, and then phenomenal choice. Really impressed from her one scene. Really hit something special with that.
I think what you said about Strange New Worlds is it's snappy.
But not Discovery snappy, not obnoxiously snappy. Like the characters helped bring it
Well,
the
Anson
weight.
Mount is doing a fantastic job, isn't he? And having met him and had some sense of him as actual person, he's a good actor because he's acting that role in a way he isn't in real life. He's not saying he's bad in real life, but I wouldn't recognise him as being the same person. What I've met of him and then seen him on TV.
Acting.
Yeah, it's good.
No, it's cool. Let's read more of the chat then. So we had Terence say hi everyone from the great state of Maryland. Where are you all from? We're both from Bedford, so that's a bit boring because I'm still in Bedford. So, although I guess where's the family originally from? One word answer.
Our family.
One word answer.
How far back?
One word answer. What would you summarise it as if you had to?
Danish Vikings.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll take that. And Terence also asks, is Orville coming back? He thought it was cancelled. So, yeah, season 3 started today over this 24-hour period. And I want to clarify something briefly that I've been hearing online. There is a significant difference between cancelled and not renewed. No TV show is automatically guaranteed another season. They are renewed. Does that make sense? Cancel is an active, this show won't get another season, versus we don't want to pick it up for another season. They're different. No show is expected to have more seasons. It's a small distinction, but a show with bad ratings is cancelled.
Young Sheldon got renewed for 2 seasons ahead of time, didn't it?
Yes, 3. Yeah, absolutely. With the exception, but I just find that odd. Like shows aren't cancelled by default; they're just not necessarily renewed. It's a subtle distinction, like titles and credits. Your titles come at the start, the credits come at the end, but people say credits for both, even though that's not the correct parlance, relatively speaking. And yes, Ashley says they're making a Ted TV show. Ted being Seth MacFarlane's Bear film. Did you see the Ted movie? Or movies?
No. I've seen clips.
First one's good. I liked it. Well acted by the bear. Ted show's a weird idea, but that's cool. Let's see. Yes, Thomas is so glad Orville is back. He liked the first episode. Yes, as did we. Yes, it's on Hulu. Good for them. Terence. Oh yeah, on Hulu. Yes. Yes, go watch Terence. Ooh, Mr. Trent. Welcome. Good to see you here. Says this was the best Trek episode in years. Hot take by Mr. Trent. You can respond. I'll do a new poll. Twit. I'll read the response after you reply.
To that, well, as I said, it's on first watch.
Well, but of all Trek though, as in that also includes Lower Decks and Prodigy. Like,
yeah, it's difficult because I haven't seen it for a while, and I suddenly realized I needed something like this because this is the sort of Star Trek I like visually, and so to suddenly be hit by this, like it's like I've been in Spain where it was super hot, then going into a hotel with super good air conditioning. Wham! It hits you. You think that's fantastic. It's air conditioning, but basically it's just cold air. It's what you've come from, how you've been living, and what you've come from. So I want to watch it again to see after a few days, and see if I feel the same way about it. But as I said, it will resonate with people differently depending on their life experiences. And if you've known someone who's committed suicide or thought about committed suicide, this will have more impact on you and maybe bring a tear to your eye in the way they've dealt with that subject than if you haven't had that. Because this wish to stop friends or family killing themselves because of it's such a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and what the devastation it leaves behind emotionally, you know people, you want to stop them from doing that, and anything like this which gives you some kind of tools or understanding about how you can approach people to try and convince them that this is not the solution that they should choose, is something good. So that's one of the reasons why I liked it so much. Besides the fact that as an artist, I just like the artwork. I could just stare at those space shots, forget the story. I mean, the Mona Lisa, not my favorite, not my favorite portrait. Some Van Goghs are much better. But you go back to the museum time and time again, you stare at this painting, admiring the artistry for hours. There is no real, in a sense, story. You admire the textures, the colours, the perspectives, the angles, and as you know, for the shots I saw, this is something you just want to go back and watch how beautiful they've rendered space. I mean, that gas giant they went into, that's fantastic. I mean, we got so used to seeing good CG, we suddenly forget what's involved in creating good CG, processing power, artistry.
Well, and that's where the simple nature of 2 years have passed. Every year, render power can improve, and the tools can improve, and it's amazing when you do sometimes see the jumps in technology. When they went from Voyager to Enterprise, they did upgrade tech, and the density, the high detailness of the NX-01 model is so significantly more than the Voyager, because they had that new season budget jump, and instantly had and it was rendered in HD for the first time. Amazing, you can see that. Also, Terrence also says that, okay, I'm going to be Captain Obvious here for a minute. The Orville is clearly a Star Trek ripoff, and no one cares. I mean,
evolution.
I mean, lots of things are Star Wars ripoffs. Lots of things are, Die Hard ripoffs, etc. The Orville was as a unique case. They probably should have stuck with their guns a bit more to make it unique from the start. It certainly evolved more into a Star Trek ripoff as time's gone on. But if you like the characters, that's the important thing, and it's certainly more mature than. It's weird. It's more mature than Picard, even though Picard is more dark and deep, and in theory more mature. This is more mature because it's not going overblown. It's going blown. There's an appropriate amount of to go, and this kind of hits that on the nail of the head. It certainly is missing a zeitgeist that Star Trek has, because it hasn't gained the same popularity as other shows, clearly. Although a 3-year hiatus has obviously not helped. But it's such a show with such a lot of heart and meaning, and good art design, as we talked about, that it would be nice if it had a bigger following. I think certainly naming it Orville New Horizon rather than Season 3, because they're trying to make it feel like a new thing, and this is their chance to get a 4 by having this be a big new thing. So hopefully this will grab a new audience. And Hulu, hey, that's a whole new platform they were not on before. Streaming is a good way to go, because they can measure the metrics very differently and very specifically compared to the other networks. I mean, back in the day, the Nielsen ratings, it's a box in some people's homes, and if one of those people tune in, that's like 10,000 views, and it's like but it's random, so it's like that is not in any way a useful metric. Really, it was a stupid metric that lasted way too long. With streaming, even so much as you can have how long have they been watching it for. It's on binges, 8 episodes of Voyager. It's popular, or at least in the background. Okay, both, but still.
I think once they've had a few more episodes and we've got back into the run of things, and we have a sense of more of the characters get their own screen time. I'm sure there's going to be a Bortis episode focused on him, and probably on the security officer. Mm-hmm. You'll again get that feeling like, hey, we really like most of this crew.
Oh yeah,
much more than we like the people in Discovery, much more than we like the people in Picard. It's just something about the karma, radiance. I don't know. It's like there's a radiance about them. Maybe because it's brighter lighting. They just seem more huggable. Is that right? More warm.
Well,
characters.
Things they're also people. Like they feel like people. They don't feel like tropes.
See, Raffi, I mean, they're all good actors, all good characterizations, I guess. But Raffi doesn't really grab me as someone I want to hang around with.
Well, she's unlikable from her core, which doesn't help.
7 and 9's been, character. I mean, people do evolve into less nice people or less lovable people, but she's not the character we grew up and loved. I can take it or leave it. Patrick Stewart, I would have preferred he'd not kind of done a season. I would have stayed with All Good Things and that game of poker around the table. That was just a perfect end to his arc for me. They had this great opportunity getting him back on board to do something spectacular, and they did something average. But hey, that's maybe controversial. Sorry, Patrick. Love you to bits. Thanks for the coffee. I'll never forget that. Your hospitality.
Always the writing. It's always the writing, and just where it comes from. Like this show comes from as in the Orville, comes from a place of we want to make the true Star Trek like show of the modern era, to tell social issues in a adult, sometimes, like the porn program wasn't overly adult, but it was still smartly done. with likable, relatable characters who have their own quirks and faults, actively have their own faults, each one of them. You know, Bortus failing marriage, Kelly cheated. You know, they all have something, and they're all likably, unlikably likable.
Talking about sex,
Okay.
That woman in the bed with
Oh
the
yeah.
mark, with all the spikes. Are those spikes hard? Is that what they were saying, that when they were doing the
Gyrating,
cruelty,
yes.
he was getting bleeding because those spikes were cutting into him?
Yep.
I thought it was a nice take. That was imaginative, and she was actually quite believable as well as a new character.
Yeah, it was extremely like the scene from Star Trek '09, I believe, when Kirk's got two Orions in his bed.
Yeah.
Like, visually, but then it lingers, and she's a real person all of a sudden, not just a sex object. And it becomes what almost the antithesis of '09. And I'm imagining that's presumably a latex suit. Everything's that would be impossible, impractical to stick each one on.
Be hot and sticky.
Yes, and then they have makeup as well. Yes,
probably only did it on the front rather than having it on the back as well, so her body can breathe.
Oh, I
so
don't
obviously, Orville is not as popular as Strange New Worlds because we've only got 50 people or 51 people watching.
But it's also a different day. You know, we don't normally do lives on a Thursday.
And I'm not Stuart. Let's be frank.
Well, you were.
I haven't got that lovable goatee beard.
True. What can you do? But we have different groups, different times.
Well, we could ask if anyone else wants to super chat. That'd be quite good.
Would be. I said at least on $20 to hit the lowest possible minimum. That's still not very good, but at least it's something.
Got to cover my airfare for flying all the way back from Spain to do this program.
I know. Oh, it's funny. Yeah.
No, I wish it did get more of a following because I think it deserves it as a work of art.
Well,
are we just going through this randomly? Or are we actually going to have some structure and do it scene by scene? I guess not.
No. We're already an hour 11 in. We're starting to this is going to be the epitome of our viewer base. So we've kind of almost covered the whole thing. It's a first reaction. So this is the format. If it was scene by scene, it would take Stuart to.
Yeah, well, lots of scenes because it's even longer. But it would have been a good prompt to remember some of the good things and some.
That's what a full review is for. If we do. But clearly people aren't as interested, so it's not worth our time. But this is why we test the waters, as it were. It's good to see our regulars who we love to bits. But briefly, last on that lady scene with the spikes. That's also something they do very well. Is about the makeup. They have very believably creative, believable makeups on Orville. It's appreciative, and I hope we see that lady again. Assuming in uniform, because she's not just there for other reasons. She must be there as an officer.
Interesting how the spikes interact with the uniform, where they prick through, or she have to have a very special type of uniform.
That'd be fine. All the colours and just all the spikes.
Talking about that creature that stamped on that CPU, whatever it was, penis head, basically.
Well, he was from season 2. They're big. We made a monster. What was season 1? The joke was that all the fan base said, "Oh, thanks, Holy Gabriel. Oh, didn't expect a response to that. That's so nice." Everyone joked he was a response to the Tardigrade from Discovery season 1 because they're so similar in design, but he's better and more interesting and just better and lovable from his 1 appearance or 2 appearances. So it's good to see that guy back because that must cost like 50,000-60,000 to make that suit, I'd assume. So, good job for them. But like we said, guys, $20 more. And we can leave, with a vague smile on our
We've
faces.
got to keep going until you get the $20. That's what he's saying, isn't that right?
That is often
1 or 2 o'clock at night.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. But that is often the challenge.
Alan Parr says we know more about Burke than we still know about some of the Discovery bridge crew.
Which one's Burke? Oh, is that the new lady? Isn't it?
Probably, I guess.
Yes, I feel like we do.
And Ozzy Medeiros very kindly says you're doing an awesome job, Ambassador. Did you make a right-hand turner? I'm not too sure what that means.
Neither do I, but if it's aimed at you, then maybe you should know.
Nope. That's to do with time travel, but
I don't know. But do you want to talk about what you're wearing? Because you've yet to mention it, which I'm surprised an hour and 13 in, or an hour in.
Well, I'm just wearing, just threw it on really to try and look semi-smart.
Fair enough. I like it.
I'm wearing my Patrick Stewart jacket, which still has some of his DNA on it.
And now, Sean.
Until he did until he
Spoiler.
did Star Trek Picard, was it?
Uh-huh.
This was the last time he ever wore a Star Trek uniform, was the jacket I'm wearing, because we got him to wear it for a charity thing and took a picture of him wearing it. And he signed both the inside and the outside. So whenever I want to feel close to Patrick, I put this on and give myself a hug.
And I think what happened was I think he said sign on the outside and I said, and then I think he said, what about the inside? I said, please do both. I'm pretty sure I just said that on like yeah, try to do both. Because two's better than one for a signature. I was like, just do both. Sir Patrick, please.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dear me. But no,
Great time, eh?
but I like the episode, but it was an underwhelming start. But also that's okay because it was an epilogue to last season, and that happened in Discovery. Yeah, Discovery, where they had an epilogue feeling episode in the first episode. But I think once we get into fresh stories where they can really utilize the full hour to do a full story, I think that will benefit it. But in terms of like sort of world building coming in, I mean, it's straight back. It does feel like not a day's passed, which is a good achievement. Although if we had rewatched the season going in, we would have enjoyed it a lot more, I'm sure. That was our problem, but I mean, you've been on holidays. I've been very, very busy
Working
prepping.
holidays.
Well, working and holiday. There you go.
Yeah, being a celebrity and being famous and being signing autographs and stuff.
Squadron Course is our famous Squadron Course. How's it going, he asks.
It's going really excellent. I just wish that more people were watching because more people liked the Orville.
Because we want to respond to you guys. If you have points, this is a great time to discuss. And vote in the poll. Right, the poll.
But the Kalon are going to be a major. It's being a bit like the war in DS9, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Kalon are such a formidable and genuinely frightening, really. Implacable. It's combining the Daleks, the Cybermen, all these sort of like the Borg in one sort of race. And their spaceships are really quite awesome.
Yeah,
they're also like a bit like the Ori, aren't they? In the sense of they're circular with a single beam.
Well, a lot of these things are clearly directly inspired by the Star Trek universe, and they very much feel like a Borg ship in that they are a single shape with detailing gone for a circle, and yet they're so distinct and yet so simplistic. Very tricky to do. So good for them for achieving it.
If I only got this one season, I wonder how they're going to resolve that conflict.
I know. Or do they try to? Because that's the thing. This happened in Babylon 5, where J. Michael Straczynski did not think he was going to get another season, and so he wrapped up 2 years of arc in one season, which led to an amazingly... Every episode was full to the brim of story, and then he got another season. And it's like, oh...
Where do I go from here?
I finished the story. So we had to kind of make a new season, which kind of... I mean, it's okay, but it was very much like we did finish the entire storyline. And that was really surreal. Because it just didn't work as well, because clearly... But it meant... season 4 is phenomenal.
One thing about robots, artificial intelligence, which run on software and hardware, is always the virus issue. If you can always attack the whole species with a virus, that would be a bit of a trope.
That would be.
They are vulnerable to that. When in the same way humans prove themselves to be quite vulnerable to a virus recently as well. So you can see how that will be a solution. Or use Isaac as a Trojan horse. Did they not try that, though? Implanting with a virus to go into the...
They did something,
mainframe?
Not that specific, but they did do something of that ilk. They have done that before, yeah. They
that was the obvious way to try and end the war.
Yeah, I imagine... Because Seth is such a busy man, and it does take a while to produce a show like this. I mean, he can only do so many shows a year, and he's doing so many shows a year. And so... But once you commit to wrapping up a show, once you strike the sets, you're never making it again, you know. And they've built loads more sets, so I can very much imagine he's saying, right, I'll continue to bankroll if I need to.
I would think they'd want at least one more season.
But this season would cost double what a normal season would cost, because also COVID procedures, so you're looking at a black hole of money that you can't possibly recoup, which means this has to get even more
in the short term.
Well, no, it's streaming. There isn't a long term unless you do Blu-rays, and they don't... Do they do Blu-rays? They did DVDs and do Blu-rays because they don't... Fox didn't do... Fox has a rule of not doing Blu-rays. They did DVDs. They might do an Orville Blu-ray now.
It's interesting you say that. I guess the residuals are not so great for the original Star Trek Classic series, but I watch on. It's still being shown on horror channels, sci-fi channels, 55 years on. So that's still earning money because you're still having to pay to show that.
Sure.
So eventually, whatever money they spent on that series, they've got back on it.
But the thing about streaming is it's different because the point is you don't see adverts on streaming. It's changing now because they want to make more and more money. But what the point of streaming service is, you make a show that makes people pay monthly to stay on your network. And so when you announce a show like The Witcher or you've heard of that or Altered Carbon, a show that is brand new to a streaming network, you then see an influx of people who then pay that monthly subscription to watch that either binge or weekly. And so you have a direct... Well, if we have 1 million more people on the 14th and all came on the 14th, it's for those fans and they get an influx of money or they stay for these weeks, which is why this is good versus those other shows who are released one big bulk. At least they have 10 weeks of guaranteed income from Hulu subscribers. But if then 1 million leave after the season, well, that's all the money you're getting. That's why they hope some of those will stay and maintain their like subscription service. It's all about getting people and keeping them on, because every person who stays for $15 more or whatever a month is passive income. That's why Netflix has this really annoying habit of cancelling after 3 seasons most of their originals, because by 3 years they're not going to get new fans. It says the market research. They'll might keep fans, but they want more people on to keep the growth. Whereas a new show will grab new people, so they keep cancelling 3 or 2 and do a new show. And so Hulu's a very different working out. So people do need to subscribe to Hulu to ensure that this is supported, but they can see it much more clearly. And once you have standing sets, it's easier to have a cheaper next season. So,
as I said to you when watching it, I really would like one of those uniforms. And when they do finally strike the sets, or whatever, I'm sure Seth will keep a few of those things himself. But I'm going to bid some serious money if they come up for auction for one of those uniforms and the faces, because I really want to have those. Anyway, we've got 2 more super chats.
Excellent.
Squadra Course, $2 US. Doing good here. Great to see the ambassador. Well, that's very kind of you. I stepped in at the last minute, sort of thing.
Yes.
Because I only got back to Britain on Tuesday evening, late, 10:30. And Christian Montgomery, $1.99.
Good question.
What are your thoughts on Orville's new engine effects? Samuel, that's your department.
I liked it a lot. It was both original and reminiscent of other things. It felt energetic. Normally there's just a plate there. No, I really liked it. It felt like a big, strong core. I hope that plays a part in future episodes, that it is, this thing is super fast. Although they made it very clear it's only as fast as their bigger class of ship. So it's not, not a experimental drive. It's just over speedy for her size. No, I thought it was lovely. It was an unnecessary addition, like the astrometrics, but clearly they're building these sets to have bigger scope, and it definitely worked.
Don't we want to take him up on his offer of a tour of that set?
I was thinking
Doug's tour of that set.
Well, I got from Tom. I got one from Tom, but yeah, it would be nice for sure.
Something to do when we get our arse into gear and get to the States. I really want to go around those sets now.
Yeah, I know that we almost did, and then COVID, and it became a case of there's no way you could possibly get in, because they have to. As in, this was at the start, I think, because it was. I think when they said COVID might be a problem, so we're making it a bit more harder to get, so just guests can't come in. But
it was like July 2019. We were invited by Isaac.
Well, that was different. That was a different.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, 2 invites. Yeah, that's true.
And Doug's open to it, so.
Oh, there you go, 3. No, I would like to walk these sets and see how they feel in person.
I would like, Samuel, I really want to walk the sets of a Star Trek series before they get struck. I mean, that would be something really, really good. We got results.
I think it's in theory they're either getting struck in the next couple of weeks or not, because they're not going to hold on to them forever. Every week they're burning cash. So if they're not struck in the next 2 months, they're probably not in the season. That's going to cost them hundreds of thousands to keep them up.
So Squadron Course puts in another $2 US. Thank you. That's almost our flights paid to the US now, isn't it?
Getting there.
What about doing 3 seasons, then a spin-off?
Okay, interesting. What spin-off though?
What would you spin off?
Oof.
Isaac and the Doctor set up on a happy, and 2 is a crowd or some kind of sitcom in
Yeah.
suburban
Oh God, yeah.
California, and you've got her and her real kids, and he making in the garage his own kids.
Right.
So bring up his family.
Same face.
There we are.
Same face, same voice.
So do I get paid for that? Because I've just come up with the idea for a really good comedy program. And Isaac makes 3, or Isaac makes 3.5, or something.
3.5 Isaacs, yeah.
And the poll, we're going to read the results of the poll because we've got 62 votes now, which is about as many as you're going to get.
Well, the other poll also I'll read out as well. I said, how excited are you the Orville returning? The win was Vevi at 67%, Lots at 13, Meh not for me at 10, and some 8, which is a lovely result on that. But yes, you can read this poll.
I've got to click on it, have I? To see what it says.
Yes.
And I've got to minimise your. I can move. Oh, I've moved you around my screen. Gosh, I'm going to use this tech. Did you prefer Strange New Worlds or Orville this week? And
that is surprising.
I'm very happy with the result. Orville got 65%, and Strange New Worlds 37%. I think there might be more old fogies watching this channel than young ones.
Yeah, that's interesting because we can't control that.
You love the TNG vibe.
Yeah.
Again, the Orville isn't perfect as a ship, but again, that's more like the ship I would want to be on than the new model Enterprise with all reflective surfaces, dark lights, and spotlights in my face. And
but guys,
I like carpets. Sorry, I like carpets.
Well, they removed them this year, so you lost your carpets.
On Orville.
Yes.
Not so noticeable.
Because Doug made the joke with Dave. Doug said, and Dave said, "Oh, no carpets. Wait for the fans to react." And Doug was like, "Let them come" or something. So a bit of a step backwards there, but they're hard. You can't really tell the way it's framed.
I could tell.
Yeah. But guys, we're only $11 away from a fourth of our minimum. So 11 rounds us up. $11. That is all. But Terence asks, okay, here's a question for everyone out there. Who thinks the Odyssey from Stargate is a match for the Orville? More than a match. With the Asgard core and its Asgard beams can easily destroy the Orville. Maybe not, well, it's more manoeuvrable, the Orville, but I think weapon-wise it could easily blow it up. And its shields are more powerful too. Would be my vote. What would you say, Dad? The X304 or the Orville?
Well, the Asgard did really have God tech, didn't they? Literally as Thor. So they had a very, very powerful ship. But talking about engine cores, I suddenly thought, wasn't the engine core a bit like Galaxy Quest? At least that round ball of light was a bit like the strange device. They didn't know what it was for. That went back in time several seconds or something.
Omega 13.
Yeah, I mean, Orville is a bit more like the Galaxy Quest, isn't it, in terms of its shape, than a Star Trek design. So in that sense, you can say it's a homage to Galaxy Quest, which in itself is an homage to Star Trek.
Multi-level deep. No, it's amazing the amalgam level they managed to achieve by both being a homage with clear references and yet finding a brand new silhouette design. That's super hard to do. Super hard to do, so good job for them. But guys, $11 away, $11 away. Terrence says, Data is not dead. He downloaded his consciousness into that other android. Yes, but then B4's synapses couldn't take it, and B4 also perished. So no, Data's consciousness was lost in that as of Picard Season 1. Sorry about that.
Unless writers want to retcon and do something like some unknown other version of Data that existed somewhere, or he downloaded it into a hard drive somewhere else on some scientific planet or something.
Sure.
So it's not a full backup, but it goes back to at least a year. But there's ways that writers can do these things if they really want to.
But Brent may say no. Although Squadricourse doubles down or answers his previous comment. He said, I meant with streaming. If the fan base stops growing after 3 seasons, we're doing a spin-off set in the same universe instead of 4 seasons. Allow you to keep people coming in. Yes, that actually is a good way of doing it, because each version of the show then creates a new audience. You can make more of a comedy or more of an action or more drama or exploration. I could see the Kelly actress being strong for a standalone. That lady has a very diverse career of failed projects, not her fault. She keeps being attached as either lead or second lead to many things that don't go past pilots. And some really famous, like, she's had so many things in so many franchises as small parts. She's very talented, actually. I wish I'd seen her in a few things. And I think if she was given a full command show, she could do a good job, personally.
Well, she's going to have an episode all to herself again, I'm sure.
Yeah, oh no, they all will. They all
How
will.
many episodes in this season?
I assume 10, but I will check.
I hope it's more than 10. Are they all going to be longer?
Of unknown varying lengths, yes. So we might get an hour and 20 for one. We don't know.
Well, that's again, it's a feature film.
Yes,
So
10.
Squadra Course, who's being very generous on this particular broadcast, puts in another $2 and says, "No carpet is okay, but shiny floors are bad, in my honest opinion." And yes, I think we'll agree with that. Lights for the sake of lights, really.
So I had forgotten this point, and it's super interesting. There is only 2 directors this season, which does make sense, as getting guest directors is therefore more difficult in COVID, etc. And this was filmed during the highest points. Only Seth MacFarlane and John Caesar are directors this year. Obviously, Seth understands it.
I mean, he's going to be in it less then, because he can't direct and act.
I would assume so, yeah.
Because he can't focus on learning so many lines.
And a lot of his lines in this week were, "What?
But his journey in the
What does that
first
mean?"
couple of seasons was quite important, wasn't it?
Yes. Which is
His
why I want more
relationship-
of him, personally.
And obviously his relationship with Kelly now, that's just like not an issue now anymore. They're just like going to be work colleagues.
I mean, that was the whole point of the last season, the last 2 episodes. And briefly, the other director has a very career and stuff that we may have seen and enjoy. He's done 3 episodes of Orville so far. They're not announcing other ones. He did 2 different versions of 24, the 2 revivals, 4 and 6 episodes respectively. He did the 24 movie, the TV movie. He did 2 episodes of Continuum, which I really rather enjoyed. 1 episode of Touch, 5 episodes of Terra Nova, 1 episode of Human Target. Lots of Canadian shows here. I was right further back. He directed 59 episodes of 24, so he's a big 24 guy, and I really enjoyed 24. Have you seen much of 24? I think you saw the first season, but got bored of it. Have you seen it?
I think I've seen maybe 3 of the seasons.
Yeah, it's very good.
They became a bit samey for me. The premise was a bit the same.
It varies. I can see why you'd say that, but it's there's a lot to like in it, and the characters I thought were really good. But they don't have the early seasons on. There is no Blu-ray for them, so it's frustrating.
Really?
Yeah, it just did make it. However, it is online in HD as part of streaming services. They didn't ever do a Blu-ray.
Oh wow!
Which is frustrating. So
I like Keith Sutherland as an actor. Certainly in his middle ages.
Yeah, when he was an act, like, I don't know, he doesn't do much more these days. Capped West says, but because of COVID, I'm expecting halfway through the season everyone will suddenly gain 50 pounds and get scruffy. Funny. But yes, guys, I guess we'll close it out there. If we can get a final like spike and super chat spike, that'd be great. $11 or $9 actually, in fact, and 6 likes, that'd be great. And I mean, show your appreciation for Ambassador to step in, give you guys some bonus entertainment today. Talk about the Orville, which we don't always do, but want to try and see what your guys' response was.
Well, I wanted to talk about it. I was dead keen to see it, and they didn't disappoint me. So I'm happy I've been able to put my tuppence worth out there.
Which you did.
The ether, which is now on permanent record.
Yes.
So it's a shame I can't move my fan base from my Roman world to my Star Trek world. They seem to stay very much separate.
You could have posted on your Facebook that you were going live. You could.
Yeah, I did, but I don't think many people would have.
$50 from the Roman? Wow, he came from the Roman side. 90 pesos from Gladiator 123. Oh my god. Maybe not quite. And yes, so we're aiming currently to do something on Strange Worlds tomorrow. Stuart is obviously living his life right now doing a convention, both with spotty internet and very specific timing, so we do not expect him to join us for a live in the evening. However, we don't want to let you down by not doing a review of Stranger Worlds on the Friday as planned, as we know you guys turn up for that. So our current idea is to do a similar one to this. Ambassador and me, same time as normal tomorrow to do Stranger Worlds. And I'm hoping to film with Stuart early in the day, but again, it will be very dependent on when we can factor that in. We do want to get a few editor review, but again, you know, just like when I'm doing my filming, I really can't pull time away. It's so intense, so no blame to that. But
we won't have screen captures though for that.
We'll have some for that one for sure.
That will be an interesting exercise to actually watch these two series side by side and look at their relative strengths and weaknesses from a critical, a critical but a loving point of view, because we love this type of science fiction, so we only want them to succeed, don't we?
And Bill says Kenobi. Yeah, Kenobi. What we're trying to do is wait and do the next 2, if not 3, because we just about got our minimum last time, but it was fun. It's always that challenge. I do have thoughts after Kenobi episode 3, for sure, but I think episode 4 will help improve episode 3, so we'll see. But
I haven't seen any of those.
No? Do you want to?
Yeah, I like the guy.
Good to know.
Don't think I've met him. No, I haven't met him.
No, he doesn't do...
Sometimes I get confused about who I have and not met. It's like...
Yeah, the Star Wars guys are the movie stars, so you don't really see them at conventions, sadly. Well, we could have met Hayden once, I believe. We had the opportunity once.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was one of Jason's gigs. I seem to remember. So we got another super chat from this well-known fan of the franchise, fan of the service that you provide, Squadron Course. Another $2 US. Last, prove me wrong if you can.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
And yes, no, Squad does ask, where's Grievous from him? Yes, Grievous always puts in a couple of bucks. Who appeared as soon as the Dreadnought appeared in Prodigy, which was funny. We got our own Grievous when their Grievous appeared. But yeah, thank you guys for joining in, saying hi. Interested to take the temperature in the room for Orville. We might do, like I said, do maybe 3 or 4 in a row for Orville as well, depending on what you guys think. Oh, and also last thing, it is my birthday on Tuesday. Well, I'm doing a birthday weekend this weekend. My aim is to do, because we do need some channel funds, as you can imagine. Things are happening right now. Both Stuart doing an event, which costs a lot of money. I'm doing some filming. So I'm aiming to do a Sunday night Trekyards birthday live. Hello there. By myself to jump in after my other half has left. So hopefully you guys will jump in for that one. Probably about the same-ish time on Sunday night. I'll have some vodka and ciders and such. As always, Super Chat rules for drinking and questions. And I'll probably talk about fan films and any of the above of the things. And probably talk about Kenobi. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that, jump into that. It'll be a good chance. And
are you going to give any exclusive previews of some shots from your fan films to encourage people to turn up?
Very possibly. Very, very possibly.
Shots have not been seen. Beautiful artistic space shots.
God, I have so many.
I saw your show reel you put together. I forget who that was for now.
Well, we can't say what it's for, can we?
No, I can't say what it's for. I remember what it's for.
Yeah.
And it was effing ace. I mean, that should be out there on YouTube. That was a work of art.
Yes.
You would have thought that you were watching an episode of Star Trek that you'd missed.
Yeah.
I know you're my son, and you can say I'm prejudiced, but I am an artist as well, and I can be objective. And that, I felt like there was a Star Trek episode. I'm sure I've seen this episode somewhere, but no, I missed it. It was really good, and at some point it'd be good if that could be out there, because a lot of people would admire that as a summary of your work. So there we are. You can't show that at the Drunk Live, can you?
No, I cannot, unless I actively remove it. I did do that once. I showed something exclusive and then took down the live because of that.
Oh right. Oh, okay. Because the live is in public.
Because then it's just those that are there can.
It's not like if you're not like a subscription channel where people only can access if they pay. He sniped himself. Is he schizophrenic? Do you think?
Well, he's a writer.
Or has he got a twin?
He writes books, so maybe.
Squadron Course snipes himself or shoots himself in the foot.
Yeah.
For $1.
How do you snipe yourself?
It doesn't say anything either. Oh, so fine. Oh, yes, he does. Fine, I'll do it myself. Laughs out loud. Bill Barkley says you'll like episode 3 of Kenobi.
Or he saw it earlier, Bill. Or I made the time to watch it. I stopped what I was doing mid. I made the time to watch it after I did the interview. But no, thank you for the CGI compliment. It's very nice, and people I'm sure enjoy that. But yes, expect some teasers as well, because I'm certainly looking at anything we can raise in super chats will go towards my filming, etc. So all appreciated. But yes, so thank you very much, Dad, for jumping in, saying hi, giving me your 2 cents, and we'll probably see you tomorrow then.
Yes, I'll try and dress up into something more special.
There we go. So until then, he's Ambassador Cockings.
And you are Commander Cockings, soon to be promoted, hopefully.
Ambassadors haven't got full rank, so you can't do that. But thanks to the thought.
I'm sure I could put a good word in with Starfleet. It's about time
Probably. And Stuart just puts that good word straight into the trash. He intercepts it, throws it back in the trash. Yes. We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks so much.
Live long and prosper.
Bye, everyone.